Well, hello. If you follow my stories, I recently had peaches full on ready here on the farm. I have a new orchard and I have just one tree left in an old orchard and they're peaches and they were actually pretty loaded this year. Obviously I don't spray them, but this year they're really nice for organic peaches. They're actually really beautiful. They're pretty much blemish free. There's of course still some blemishes where they get bruises or maybe a bug gets in them. But what do I do with extra peaches? Of course you can bake with them, make pies, make bars, eat them fresh with like some vanilla ice cream, like please. But I love to can peaches. Mom always canned peaches, grandma canned peaches, and it's actually a great memory I have just like doing this together. But I'm gonna show you how to can peaches so we can do it together, because what's great is you don't have to go get a bushel or two of peaches. Sometimes like this, I just have enough. I'm doing 3 quart jars of peaches. It's not a ton, but if you don't have a lot of space, it's easy to store 3 jars. And can I tell you, in the middle of winter, open up a jar of peaches, especially if you were able to grow them or pick them yourself somewhere. Ugh. But then you can also use them just like canned peaches, whether you're feeding children or kids or want to use them in a recipe. Same thing. So to start, I'm gonna make a light syrup for them. Instead of using just a regular sugar syrup, I'm gonna do some water. Right in there it goes. So anytime you can something, you need obviously a liquid to go around it. So for this one, I'm doing honey instead of just sugar. I like honey can impart a slight flavor, but I also like that it's not just regular sugar. It just has a nice light sweetness, not too much. And then to that, I'm gonna add a little bit of lemon, just some nice acidity. And we're just gonna put that right in there. And then we're gonna put this on the stove and we're just gonna let it come to a simmer. It's gonna kind of melt in that honey, make it just homogeneous with the water, do it on low. And while we're doing that, we can talk peaches. So here are my homegrown peaches. Now, if you buy peaches, if you pick peaches, whatever you have, you wanna make sure they're at a good ripe stage when you're going to do this. That will ensure that one, they have the best flavor, the most sweetness, but also the peel comes off easier. So if you get them home and they're still really hard and don't have a lot of wonderful aroma, then you probably wanna set them out on something, maybe at room temperature for a few days. If you set them on newspaper, it goes faster. Mom and grandma say so, and it's true. But if you just put them in at room temperature, and they'll ripen at room temperature. Soon you'll start smelling them and noticing them. So when I go to do it, what I have here is some water that had a little bit of lemon juice in it, just to make them from turning brown, just to stop that process. But I take one, I go around kind of the equator, around that pit, twist them open. Look at that beautiful peach. Now, the one thing, if you're buying your peaches, don't buy one that's called a cling peach, or one where the stone inside of it or that pit inside clings to the fruit. You don't want that. That means they are very hard to get that pit out of, and you oftentimes have to end up cutting it out, and it's just not very nice. So what I'm doing is just paring the peach, where I'm actually going to just take off. Now, when they're really ripe, you should be able to take the side of your knife. Like grandma would say, these aren't quite ripe enough, but see how you can just kind of pull it off? Because then look how little amount of peach comes off with that. My grandma and my mom, such a stickler. When grandma was still alive, she would like watch you like a hawk and be like, you're getting too much apple or peach with that when you would do this. That one actually peels almost perfectly. Now, if you have a bruise, like here's a little bruise, that will show up more when you can it. So I do like to slightly trim those out, because as it has that process where it goes through the canning, it can actually make that bruise stick out a little bit more. Not that that matters, it's just a look thing, but I think half of the beauty and wonderful deliciousness of a home canned good is the art that goes into it and how it's a process where you just try to make it look good. So the reason we're peeling these is the peel would turn quite funky once you can it. It would get wrinkled, it would get kind of dark brown, and really the texture isn't what you want. So I'm just making sure to peel it. Sometimes what I do when I'm not on camera as I'm peeling it is eat the peel, because I think they're delicious, but you do you. So I'm gonna keep doing this. We're gonna start putting them in jars. It's that easy. I'm packing the jars, and you can see it's actually, I'm using wide mouth because I have bigger hands. When we did this always, grandma would have small hands, or mom, and we would often use regular mouth because the shoulder of a regular mouth can sometimes keep these from floating up, because you'll see when these get done, they might float up. But you know what? You gotta do what you gotta do. And I like to lay them in so you can kind of see they lay nicely. You kind of just stack them and stair stack them on the way up. I know, but you know, the beautifulness. Look at how it's like, I don't know, it's like a little piece of art as you're making these. It's just so beautiful. And they just, I don't know. I think there's just something so special about a home canned good. Growing up, this would be what our quote unquote dessert would be a lot, because we got into the habit of always thinking we needed dessert. So mom would pull out home canned peaches or sometimes apples, whatever it was. Now at the top, if I have smaller ones, just to make sure I fill in the space, I'll use some of those smaller ones. You can see that just kind of fits in perfectly. Oh, just so. That is just beautiful. So now what we do is we start filling up with syrup. My syrup came to a boil. I let it just kind of keep hot and simmer on the stove, and that's all we needed. And so now we're gonna start filling them up, and look how, I love the slight color on them. So we wanna keep it hot, the syrup, and we're gonna use a funnel just to make it a little bit cleaner, because we don't wanna get as much on the rim. You wanna leave it clean. I'm gonna start pouring this in, and you wanna make sure you take the time to let it go down to the bottom, fill in around all the peaches, and then make sure we get out any air bubbles. So as we're going, you can see it's just perfect. And then at the top, we always wanna leave, and I say this a lot, but a 1/2 inch of headspace. Now what that means is, from the top of that rim of the jar to where the juice, the water, the syrup mixture is, you want a 1/2 inch. That's that safe area where you only wanna leave a 1/2 inch of air. If you have too much air in a jar or too much space of like headspace, that means certain bacteria could stay in there. It wouldn't be safe. It sounds scary, but if you just follow the directions, it's no big deal. So I'm gonna keep filling these up. We're gonna put the lids on, the rings on. So it's a no-brainer and it's pretty easy. Once I have all the syrup up to that 1/2 inch headspace, I just take a clean like paper towel or cloth with some hot water and just wipe off the rims. You know, sugar syrup is, obviously it can be sticky. You just don't want anything that can inhibit a good seal. So I take my lid and ring and just follow the manufacturer's instructions on how to prepare them. Same with the sterilized jars. Put it on fingertip tight, which means not so tight you can't turn anymore, but like just almost tight enough. And then, like, I like to have them on a rack for this reason. Then I can just pick them up, take them over to my water bath. Always check with the USDA canning guide. Depending on times, if your altitude is different than mine, obviously, I'm at the 0 to 1,000, but if you're at something different, you have to sometimes adjust your cooking time. So I'm gonna put these in here. I'm gonna nestle them in. Now, a little bit bigger canner would be smart on quarts because water can almost come over, but it just covers them like you want to. Gonna put this on, let it come to a boil, then we're done after the time. So I'm taking the peaches out, and you can see, since I used a wide mouth, see how they rose slightly from the bottom? Now, don't let that scare you. As they cool off, it will also obviously kind of slowly fall back down, but when they're hot, they're kind of at the top. But if you use a regular shoulder jar, that won't be as bad. But again, guys, my hands, they just don't fit, and it's hard to do. And mom wasn't here today, so this is what we're doing. So this is where I like to say, this is what's great about canning. You don't have to think of canning so many jars. That can be overwhelming. You can can 3 quart jars. You could have even done these in pints if you wanted to. You can make it work for you, and that's what's great. Now, I did these because I want to enjoy them in the winter. So I'm sorry, but I'm not going to pop one open and try it right now. But you know what? How I'm going to know if they're good? Because you know what they taste like? They taste just like the right peach. I don't need any words. Look, it's a juicy, delicious peach. It's ripe off the tree in my orchard. Do you have to have an orchard? No. Check a farmer's market. Check where there are ripe and seasoned peaches. Peaches are the one thing that usually you only find them around peach season. And there's a reason, because these are so good. So that's what this is gonna taste like when it's cold out. When the snow is blowing, I can get these peaches out and think, summer's coming, and I'm gonna complain about the heat eventually. That's right now. So what do I hope you do? I hope you can some peaches. Beautiful gift, perfect for your family, perfect for yourself. And share the video around, because guess what? It helps me, but it helps everyone else see that this is so doable. It can be fun. You can do it with a friend, with your family, on your own, whatever you need, and make it work. Check my website, wiseguy.com, for this recipe, every other recipe. That's kind of where I live online. I love when you join me there. Check my social medias to find out what I'm doing every day on my stories. I'm posting all the time. And until then, I hope you have some peaches. because you know what? We all deserve some.